Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 17 of the Chasing the Racing podcast. It is Monday, January 27th, 2020, the final episode of the month of January, and it is also my final episode before I make my trip down to Florida for a 2-week race chasing vacation. I fly out of here next Monday night, and I cannot put into words how freaking excited I am to leave the winter wonderland that is New York, even though it has been fairly mild, and go down south to the warm temperatures of Florida and enjoy a plethora of different racing action for just about 2 weeks straight. I hope that all of you are having a great Monday night. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you had a great week. We had a handful of racing this past week and weekend. Good amount of things to chit-chat and talk about. I hope that you were able to somehow get some of that, absorb some of it in some way, check some of it out, and enjoy racing this past weekend. I know I did. I watched a vast majority of the Rolex 24. Watched a little bit of the Supercross tape delay. Didn't really watch a ton of it. I was kind of getting myself ready to leave the house when it was on, so I didn't really watch a ton of it. Spent most of my weekend watching the Rolex 24. Which I very much enjoyed, and we will kick off the show talking about that race. But before we get into our racing discussion, I just wanted to put this out at the beginning of the show tonight. With my flight to Florida leaving on next Monday night, I've made the decision to take the week off next week. So there will not be a show next week. No live show, no YouTube show. We're going to take the week off because of my flight and my trip. And depending on if I'm able to make things work down in Florida, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some of like my OBS equipment, bring that down to Florida with me. And if I can find some time, maybe we'll do a show or two at my buddy's house down in Florida. If not, then we'll end up having a longer break than I was originally planning. But a definite, for sure, no show next week, so that way I can get down to Florida. We'll see what happens. What will those dates be? We'll see what happens on the 10th and the 17th. So I'm going down to Florida next Monday the 3rd, and I will be coming back Wednesday the 19th. So the shows in question would be the 10th and the 17th. I kind of feel like maybe I'll be able to get those done fairly easily. Being down in Florida, maybe my friend that I'm staying with is going to have interest in being on the show. So that might make it easier to do. But no official word on that yet. The only official word is that there will not be a show next Monday, February 3rd. So that way I can get down to Florida. God, I can't wait. I'm so stoked. But that is next week. This is this week, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about this week in regards to the racing world. And as I mentioned, I spent most of my weekend watching the Rolex 24. We'll jump right in and talk about that first. I thought the Rolex 24 this year was extremely entertaining. It was a 38-car field, which is significantly lower than what they usually run in the Rolex 24. There's usually more cars than a full field of NASCAR, but this year it was less than that. The typical four classes, you had your DPIs, LMP2s, GTLMs, and GT Daytonas. The class rosters, you had 8 DPI cars, 5 LMP2s, 7 GTLMs, and 18 GTDs. So GTD, massive, overwhelming field by nearly twice the number of any other class that ran. but it still was a really good race. I watched the first few hours that they had on NBC and NBCSN, and then when that went off the air, I went and worked. Eventually, I ended up pulling the broadcast up on my phone, and I was kind of listening to it while I worked. Came back home, watched a little more on TV, listened to more when I went back out and worked later on in the night, came back, slept, woke up, and watched the rest on TV. So there wasn't too much that I didn't tune into this year, and it was pretty cool. So the race, it was really good. Really the only kind of stinker of the whole event was the LMP2 race. That race was just dominated by the Dragon Speed USA team. They led the majority of the race. There's no statistic that I have pulled up for laps led, but they led a ton of laps in that race. So they were really the only ones that stunk up the show. The GTLM race was insanely awesome throughout the majority of it. The BMW Team RLL car and the two Porsche GT cars were spectacular to watch. They were fighting each other for hours upon hours upon hours. The BMW team ended up pulling away late in the final hour and left the two Porsche GT cars to fight amongst themselves. But besides that, just incredible. Probably the best class of the entire race, because those three teams, they started fighting each other during the overnight hours. So it never stopped. It just did not stop. You would turn the TV on in the morning when they started the TV coverage, and they were still bumper to bumper passing each other and racing clean. The BMW was much better on the oval. On the straightaways, they had a much better straightaway speed. But what helped keep it close was that the Porsches they were better on the infield. So it led for a lot of really exciting racing. And it's impressive to see competitors fight like that for so long in a 24-hour race. You would think that at some point in a 24-hour that everything would just blow wide open and it wouldn't be competitive. That wasn't the case. Those teams kept it insanely entertaining to watch, and in my opinion, was the best class of the entire race. GTD was pretty close for a while. Couple Lamborghinis were up at the top of the board in GTD, and they made things entertaining to watch. For me being the NASCAR mark that I am, Kyle Busch was racing in GTD this year, so it was kind of fun to follow his team and see what they were doing. Kyle himself had a really good race. He was very competitive, running lap times consistent with the leaders. They were never really close to the lead, never really had a good shot at the lead, but they still were fun to watch, and Kyle was actually smiling and happy with his run. So that was pretty cool. And then, of course, in DPI, DPI was pretty competitive as well. Virtually all of the major teams had times out front where they were leading. Drama very early with one of the Team Penske Acuras, the car driven by Elio Castroneves, Alexander Rossi, and Ricky Taylor, ended up getting turned around in the bus stop. I think it was 3.5 hours into the race or so, 4.5 hours into the race. They got turned around by the Mazda Team Jost number 55 car. Elio Castroneves and Harry Tinknell were behind the wheels of those two cars. Castroneves had a GT car up in front of him. As they were entering the bus stop, he was taking it easy so that way he could develop the run coming off the bus stop and easily get by him on the oval 3 and 4 portion of the racetrack. Harry saw him taking the entry slower and decided to make a move for position. Dive bombed Castroneves, and Castroneves was already committed to his line once he did that. And the two made contact. Both of them spun out. Castroneves ended up slamming into a tire wall, did significant amount of damage to the car. Tinknell spun it around, kept it on going. They didn't really have much damage out of the whole incident, but the Team Penske Acura was very well beat up, and they ended up losing a little over 20 laps trying to get the car repaired, and they were never able to recover. They ended up last in the DPI category out of the 8 cars, 22 laps down at the finish. So it goes to show how important it is to stay patient in a long endurance race like that. And for this race, there really wasn't a lot of cautions. The green flag pace in the race was quite impressive. I don't know exactly how many cautions they had. Probably only 4 or 5 full course cautions throughout the entirety of the race. There was only 33 laps. It says right here, 33 full course yellow laps out of 833 laps that were raced, which is a new race record, by the way. The pace was so good that they had a new race record at 833 laps, which was broken from the 2018 race. I think that was at like 803, 808 or something, one of those two numbers. So quite a significant difference in the pace, for sure. But yeah, it was fun. It was very fun to me to watch. Makes me think that maybe next year I need to make that race, put that race on my list and go to it, finally get that one checked off. I've only been to 2 different sports car races. I did the Grand Am race back in 2012 when it was still considered the Grand Am Sports Car Series. They ran a short race after the Xfinity race during the NASCAR weekend, and then I did the 6-hour at the Glen 4 years ago now, I think. So I may look up their schedule and try to see if I can't fit the 6-hour into my race chasing schedule. But in the end, the results, that's what everybody is most interested in. In DPI, it was the Wayne Taylor Racing number 10 Konica Minolta Cadillac taking the win. 4 years in a row, the Cadillac has won the Rolex 24. They are undefeated in the Rolex 24 in the DPI category ever since debuting in the series. That car was driven by Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon, Komi Kobayashi, and Renger van der Zand. These don't give me the first name, so I'm going to try to remember as many names as I can. So I apologize if I screw that up at some point. I probably will. I'm not going to remember everybody. Second place in DPI was the sister car to the Mazda Team Joest car that had issues with Acura Team Penske. That one was driven by Oliver Jarvis, Tristan Nunez, and Olivier Pla. They had the race lead at portions during this race. Had a penalty that Tristan Nunez committed under a local yellow. He passed some GT cars under a local yellow, which you are not allowed to pass under a local yellow. He did, so he had to serve a penalty. They were able to rebound, but never really quite took the lead and led in the way that they did prior to that. The Mustang Sampling Racing JDC Miller Motorsports number 5 car finished in third. That was driven by Joao Barboza, Sebastian Bourdais, and Loic Duval. I've always liked Joao Barboza because his name sounds really cool. Joao is an awesome name. Fourth place was the Acura Team Penske, the other car, the number 6 car, that was driven by Dane Cameron, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Simon Pagenaud. And then rounding out the top 5, the JDC Miller Motorsports car, number 85. That was with J. Piedrahita. I don't think I ever heard that dude's name mentioned once in the broadcast, so I don't know how to pronounce that. Matthias Leicht, I don't remember that dude's first name, C. Miller, and Tristan Vautier as well. Then that's the other Mazda Team Joe's car, the one that had the problems with the Acura Penske, was 6th. The Whelen Engineering Racing 31 was 7th, and then the Team Penske machine rounding out the 8th and final position in DPI. Now, it wasn't really much to talk about with LMP2 because, like I said, the Dragon Speed USA team dominated the race. That one was won and driven by Ben Hanley, Colin Brown, H. Hedman, and H. Newey. I can't remember their first names. PR1 Matheson Motorsports was in 2nd. In their number 52 machine. I don't really know most of these guys that were on these teams. LMP2 didn't get a lot of coverage because they weren't really battling too much. The Aero Motorsport car, number 18, finished in 3rd. Tower Motorsport by Starworks was in 4th. That's the car that Ryan Diel was racing. And then the 5th place car, Performance Tech Motorsports, they DNF'd out of the race. After a crash. That was a 4-car team. I believe C. Castles was the guy that was in the car when they had their problem. One of very few DNFs in this year's Rolex 24, so that was pretty impressive as well. In GTLM, like I said, it was the BMW Team RLL team that got the win. John Edwards, Chad Mostert, Jesse Crone, I think it was, and Augusto Farfus were the drivers of that machine. And then the 2 Porsche teams finished in 2nd and 3rd. The 912 car, which was Ed Bamber, I think. Vantour, I can't remember his first name. And then Mateus Jaminet was the driver there. And then the 911 car was Nick Tandy and his 2 teammates, which I also don't know their first names. Makowiki and Campbell. Corvette Racing finished in 4th. Their number 3 car. That was the car that Jordan Taylor was racing after leaving his father's team. They were fairly competitive. They ended up finishing a lap down. Their sister car had more problems than they did, and finished last in the class, with Oliver Gavin, Tommy Milner, and M. Fassler. The other team, BMW Team RLL car, was in 5th. And then the Risi Competizione Ferrari finished in 6th place in the GTLM class. I won't run through everybody in GTD because they had the most cars. But Paul Miller Racing was the victors. 2 Lamborghinis at the top of the field. The Paul Miller Racing number 48 car, and then the GRT Magnus number 44 car. WRT Speedster Audi Sport and their number 88 machine was 3rd. Wright Motorsports' number 16 car was 4th, and Black Swan Racing, their number 54 car, rounded out the top 5. The remaining of the top 10 was followed by Turner Motorsport in their BMW, Scuderia Corsa in their Ferrari, Heinricher Racing with MSR Kerr-Bakajanian in their Acura, and Vassar Sullivan, Kyle Busch's team, in their Lexus. The 8th place team was where AJ Allmendinger competed, that Heinricher Racing. And then Meyer Shank Racing with Kerr-Bakajanian finished in 10th place to round out the top 10. So there is your review, your rundown of the Rolex 24 at Daytona from this past weekend. As I said, very fun race to watch. I very much enjoyed spending most of that race tuning in. And now listen 2 weeks away until I show up at Daytona International Speedway for the first time for the stock car portion of Speed Weeks. Transitioning over to Monster Energy Supercross, we had our 4th race of the season for Monster Energy Supercross in Glendale, Arizona. It was in the stadium that the Arizona Cardinals NFL football team competes in, State Farm Stadium. This was also the first race of the Triple Crown for Monster Energy Supercross. So for those who are unfamiliar with the Triple Crown events, there are 3 of them, hence Triple Crown. Their special format that they do is that they run 3 main events instead of heat races in 1 main event. So both 250 and 450 run 3 main events. You get a point per position where you finish. So if you win, you get 1 point. Second, you get 2. Third, you get 3, so on and so forth throughout the field. At the end of the 3rd main event, the overall winner is the rider who has the least amount of points per his finishes. If there is a tie in points, the tiebreaker goes to the highest finisher in the 3rd main event. So had I remembered that this was a Triple Crown race, I totally would have done things differently for my Fantasy Supercross, but that's okay. I'm not very good at that, so we'll just let that be what it will be. But anyway, in the 250 Supercross, main event number 1, that one was won by Austin Forkner. Dylan Ferrandis was 2nd, Christian Craig 3rd, Michael Mosiman 4th, and Brendan Hartranft rounded out the top 5. Jacob Hayes was 6th, Mitchell Oldenburg 7th, Alex Martin 8th, Aaron Tanti 9th, and Derek Drake rounded out the top 10. Main event number 2 for 250 Supercross, Austin Forkner once again picked up the victory and did it again over Dylan Ferrandis, setting himself up very nicely for the overall victory. 2 wins is great, only 2 points. Derek Drake was 3rd, Michael Mosiman 4th, Jacob Hayes 5th, Brendan Hartranft 6th, Mitchell Oldenburg 7th, Alex Martin 8th, Justin Cooper 9th, and Jay Wilson rounding out the top 10 for main event number 2. And then in the 3rd and final main event for the 250 Supercross Triple Crown, it was points leader Justin Cooper who picked up the win. Once again, Dylan Ferrandis finished in 2nd, Austin Forkner was 3rd, Brendan Hartranft 4th, Jacob Hayes 5th, Michael Mosiman 6th, Mitchell Oldenburg 7th, Luke Clout in 8th, Alex Martin 9th, and Killian Alberson rounding out the top 10 finishers for the 3rd and final main event for 250 Supercross. That would create the overall results. And with his 2 wins and 3rd place finish, it was Austin Forkner who picked up the overall victory for round 4 of 250 Supercross West from Glendale. Dylan Ferrandis' triple 2nd place finishers put him in 2nd overall, as you could probably tell. Well, that's not necessarily true. If somebody had worse numbers, you could win it with 2-3 seconds. Michael Mosiman, great effort for him. Best run of the season. He got the 3rd place overall spot. Brendan Hartranft 4th. Jacob Hayes 5th. Mitchell Oldenburg 6th. Alex Martin 7th. Derek Drake 8th. Justin Cooper 9th. And Luke Clout rounding out the top 10 for the overall positions. Points closed up dramatically in 250. Justin Cooper still hangs on. He did not have a very good Triple Crown event. He had a 17th, a 9th, and then he had the win in the 3rd one. But still, those first 2 finishes were not good to him, and it gave him a 9th place overall effort, only 14 points on the night. So he still has the points lead, but he only has a 3-point lead over defending West champion Dylan Ferrandis. Brendan Hartranft is 3rd at 77 points, so he has 9 points out of the lead, and then 10 points out in position 4 is Austin Forkner. Alex Martin rounds out the top 10, or the top 5, excuse me. He has 66 points, 20 points behind the leader. Michael Mosiman is 6th at 62 points. He's actually tied with Jacob Hayes for that position. They both have 62 points. 8th place is Mitchell Oldenburg at 55 points. And then you have another tie for 9th with Luke Clout and Derek Drake. Those 2 gentlemen at 48 points apiece. So there's your rundown of the 250 Supercross racing action. In the 450s, They also running under the same Triple Crown format. 450 main event number 1 was won by the Race 2, the St. Louis winner, Ken Roczen. Last week's winner, Eli Tomac, finished in second. Adam Cianciarulo with a third place finish. Malcolm Stewart was fourth. Jason Anderson was fifth. Justin Barcia finished sixth. Justin Brayton seventh. Defending champ Cooper Webb was eighth. Justin Hill ninth. And Martin Davalos rounding out the top 10 in main event number 1 for the 450 Supercross guys. Main event number 2. Pretty similar looking... Oh, crap. I just realized I don't have the overall results up. All right, I'll have to pull that up when I finish here. Main event number 2. Looked very similar to the first one. Ken Roczen picked up the win. Eli Tomac second. Once again, Jason Anderson moves up to third for this one. Blake Baggett was fourth. Cooper Webb rounding out the top 5. Adam Cianciarulo dropped to sixth. Justin Brayton seventh. Justin Barcia eighth. Aaron Plessinger ninth. And Dean Wilson taking over the top 10. 2 wins in a row for Ken Roczen. Could he make it 3? He absolutely could, and he did. A clean sweep for Ken Roczen in the 450 Supercross Triple Crown at Glendale. He wins all 3 of them, obviously winning the overall with 3 wins. Jason Anderson was second in main event number 3. Eli Tomac was third. Cooper Webb fourth. Martin Davalos fifth. Malcolm Stewart sixth. Justin Barcia seventh. Aaron Plessinger eighth. Justin Brayton ninth. And Justin Hill rounding out the top 10 in the third and final main event for 450s. Let me refresh the results page here and find the overall, the full overall results for the event. Obviously, with the 3 wins, maximum or minimum points, only 3 points. That's the best way to say it. Ken Roczen with the overall win, his second win of the season, the first repeat winner of the 450 Supercross season. Eli Tomac finished in second. Jason Anderson was third. Cooper Webb fourth. Justin Barcia fifth. Justin Brayton in sixth. Malcolm Stewart seventh. Adam Cianciarulo eighth. Aaron Plessinger ninth. And Blake Baggett rounded out the top 10 finishers for the overall race results from Glendale for the 450s. Checking out the point standings after 4 races. Ken Roczen up at the top. He has an 8-point lead over Eli Tomac. Justin Barcia is in third place in points. He is 11 points out of the lead. Jason Anderson, the 2018 champion, finished in fourth. Or is currently sitting fourth. He is 14 points out of the lead. Defending champ Cooper Webb is fifth at 72 points, so he is 20 out. 21 points back in sixth place is Adam Cianciarulo. 29 points out in seventh is Justin Brayton. 30 points out in eighth is Malcolm Stewart. And then at 55 points in ninth is Blake Baggett and Zach Osborne, 10th place, 51 points in the point standings. Race number 5 on the season this upcoming weekend in Oakland, California, to kick off the month of February, as February 1st is on Saturday. So January's racing for Monster Energy Supercross all complete. We kick off February in Oakland, California on Saturday, February 1st. The last little bit of racing that at least for this portion, before we start mixing racing results and news categories, the Dryden Extreme Dirt Car Series went back to racing this past weekend. They were originally supposed to go racing for 2 events, but Mother Nature ruined the event at Cochran Motor Speedway, so they decided to cancel it. And the only event that they ended up running was the race, I believe it was yesterday at the Cherokee Speedway in Gaffney, South Carolina. Let's see, scrolling through here, click here for full results. Yes, I would love to have the full results page. So Extreme Dirt Car Series, Super Late Model Series. It's been a few weeks since we've talked about these guys. They've been kind of on a break and have had some scheduling and weather issues. But they were back in action. Cherokee Speedway yesterday. It was a 40-lap feature, paid $5,000 to win, and it was won by the 87 machine of Ross Bales. Ross started in second place and got the victory. Casey Roberts was the pole sitter. He finished in second, picked up the $2,500 payday. Johnny Persley finished in third. Chris Madden finished in fourth. Zach Mitchell rounded out the top five. Pearson Williams was in sixth. Kyle Strickler, the modified standout, finished in seventh. Ryan Gifford was eighth. Tim Vance ninth. And Scott Shirey? We'll go with Shirey. Scott Shirey finished in 10th place, running out that top 10. They only ended up having 14 cars in the feature. They had 16 cars. No, that's right. They had 14 cars time in qualifying. So they split things up into 2 heat races, 8 laps apiece. The top 7 transferred. So, but everybody transferred in. So it doesn't really matter at that point. But Ross Bales took home the checkered flag there. And the nice $5,000 payday. The hard charger for the event was Scott Shirey. He started in 14th, dead last, and finished in 10th. So 4 spots got him the hard charger award. They've only got one more race left. One final race before they call it a season for the Extreme Dirt Car Series, and heading into that event, it is Chris Madden up on top of the points standings, 53-point lead. Well, 53 points. He has a 16-point lead over Ross Bales in second. Zach Mitchell is third at 18 points back. Kyle Strickler is fourth, 19 points back. Trent Ivey fifth, 21 points back. Logan Roberson sixth, 28 points back. Brandon Overton is seventh, 31 points back. Chris Ferguson is tied with Brandon Overton for seventh, 22 points apiece. They are 31 back. Pearson Williams, 32 points back in ninth, and then Tim Vance rounds out the top 10 at 35 points out of the race lead. So far this season, 61 different drivers have competed in the Drydene Extreme Winter Dirt Car Series. And looking at the schedule, the final race of the season will be a month away from now. That will be raced at the Modoc Raceway in Modoc, South Carolina on Saturday, February 29th. Yes, I said that right. It's leap year this year. Saturday, February 29th is when the Drydene Extreme Dirt Car Series will finish up their season. At the Modoc Raceway, Chris Madden looking to wrap up the championship. 2 wins on the season and 4 starts for Madden, so he's had a very good season, trying to hold off Ross Bales and the hungry field behind him for the 2019-2020 Drydene Extreme Dirt Car Series Championship. So now moving into our news and other racing results portion of our show. Kick things off as we usually do with some NASCAR talk. Some more NASCAR news coming out this past week. Starting to wind down on all of that as we're closing in on the season. NASCAR starts up in 20 days. 20 days from the Daytona 500. Less than that from the start for the Trucks and Xfinity Series. I am stoked. We start things off with playoff news for the Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series. They are going to expand the playoffs from 8 drivers to 10 drivers in 2020. NASCAR announced this last Tuesday. With the increase in drivers, they're going to have to change how eliminations are done. In the round of 10 now, at the end of the round of 10, there will be 2 teams eliminated. The round of 10 races are Worldwide Technology Raceway, which is formerly Gateway Motorsports Park, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and Bristol Motor Speedway. After the Bristol race, they will eliminate 2 drivers. The round of 8 will compete at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Talladega Super Speedway, and Martinsville Speedway. After the Martinsville Speedway event, they will cut that field in half. They will make 4 eliminations, and you will have your championship 4 heading into Phoenix Raceway after that. The Truck Series managing director Brad Moran said this in his statement, quote, expanding the NASCAR Gainer RV and Outdoors Truck Series playoff field is to 10 is a win-win for drivers, teams, and most importantly, the passionate fans who support our Gander trucks. This will only increase the competitive intensity of this series offers as more drivers and teams vie for one of the most coveted championships in all of racing, unquote. I listened to some of Brad's comments on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on Tuesday when he was on the show, or on Dave Moody's show. I wasn't really too much of a fan of what he had to say. He kind of, in some ways, said that there were some good drivers that missed out on the playoffs last year, so this allows us to include them in the playoffs. Overall, I really don't have too much of an issue with it. Kind of an out-of-nowhere type announcement. I guess if it makes the playoffs better, sure. I didn't really have an issue with 8. I don't really have an issue with 10. I just don't want it to make it become easier to get in the playoffs for trucks or win the championship. It shouldn't be easier. It should be a challenge. It should be difficult. But I guess we'll see. We'll get a season in and kind of assess how it goes. It's still fewer than the Xfinity and the Cup Series, so I guess that's all right. But we'll see. Just not at all expecting this announcement to happen. So hopefully it does make things better and increases the competition and the competitiveness of the NASCAR Gainer RV and Outdoors Truck Series for 2020. Fox has confirmed, Fox and NASCAR, however you want to put it, they've confirmed that Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon are going to be the only 2 gentlemen in the commentary booth for the Fox races. Darrell Waltrip was with that team for a few years once Jeff Gordon jumped onto the scene. With Darrell Waltrip retiring, that opened up a potential spot in the booth, but they are not going to do that. It is just going to stay Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon for the Fox races in 2020. Nobody will replace Darrell Waltrip in the booth. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the first time that Fox has only had 2 people, 2 main commentators in the booth. I think ever since the beginning they've always had 3. It was Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip, and Larry McReynolds that debuted and stuck with that for quite a while until Jeff Gordon jumped in. I was kind of hoping maybe that they would bring Larry McReynolds back, but obviously that's not going to happen. It's just going to be Mike and Jeff. So this is going to be Mike Joy's 20th consecutive season as NASCAR on Fox's lead announcer. Been there for all of them since Fox started doing NASCAR. And surprisingly enough, this is now Jeff Gordon's 5th season in the booth. 5 years, Jeff Gordon. This is the 5th year for Jeff Gordon's retirement. That's crazy. It's crazy to think that we're already that far into his retirement. So yeah, it's a 2-man group. You will only see Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon in the Fox booth for the races with Fox. I mean, of course, you'll still have all your other cast of characters on pit road and other things. But with Darrell Waltrip's retirement, there will not be a replacement. It will just be Jeff and Mike. In the Xfinity Series, we had a little bit of news this past week. Some more information released about the number 21 Richard Childress Racing Camaro. Kaz Grala is going to be racing in that car for a number of races. That car already being piloted this year by Myatt Snider and Anthony Alfredo. So the 3 of them will share that ride for this upcoming season. It says that he is scheduled to return to the driver's seat beginning this summer, and he will compete in select races. It doesn't really go into details too much as to which races, so I'm assuming that they probably haven't made that decision yet. But he will be competing in a partial schedule. Gralla himself had this to say about the whole announcement. He said, quote, "I learned a lot as a driver working with RCR last year, so I feel confident that our existing chemistry as a team will lead to even better results in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this season. RCR's Xfinity Series program is top-notch, and with the number 21 car running all year, I'm excited to be a part of the team chasing yet another Owners' Championship. I'm very grateful to Richard Childress for giving me this opportunity to further my career," unquote. His 2019 stats, he didn't really race a lot in 2019, but he had one top 5 finish at Road America. And he completed 99.7% of the laps that he ran. So that is quite impressive. Richard Childress on the announcement said, quote, "Kaz showed quite a bit of speed and promise in the number 21 car last year for RCR. I'm confident the results will show in 2020, especially after a year under his belt in our proven Xfinity program," unquote. And then the final bit of this article from speedsport.com goes on to say that Gralla earned his career first National Series win in the NASCAR Truck Series at Daytona International Speedway as part of Speed Weeks in 2017, becoming the track's youngest NASCAR winner at 18 years, 1 month, and 26 days old. That win also made him the youngest driver to make the NASCAR playoffs. So it's been a short and a bit of an odd career so far for Kaz Gralla in NASCAR, but he will continue that with Richard Childress Racing in 2020, making select starts in their number 21 Chevrolet Camaro, sharing that ride with Myatt Snider and Anthony Alfredo. ARCA has announced a new point system for the 2020 season. I originally was a little bit concerned about how this article and this announcement was going to play out. But once I read it, it really is totally fine, and I'm not at all concerned whatsoever. This is an article from Speed51.com. Goes to say that the ARCA Menard Series has announced a change to its championship points format, aligning the series point structure with those in the NASCAR Cup Series, NASCAR Xfinity Series, and NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series, as well as the ARCA Menard Series East and West, formerly known as the NASCAR Can-Am Pro Series. Previously, the ARCA Menard Series used a format that awarded 235 points to a race winner, 220 points for second, and then a 5-point interval per position throughout the field. 5 bonus points were available for winning the General Tire Pole via qualifying, for leading a lap and leading the most laps, meaning a driver could earn a maximum of 250 points per race. Under the new system, a race winner will earn 43 points plus a 3-point bonus for winning the race for a total of 46 points. Second would earn 42 points with a 1 point per position interval through the remainder of the field. There will be a 1-point bonus for winning the General Tire Pole via qualifying, and 1-point bonuses for leading a lap and leading the most laps, meaning the maximum a driver could score by sweeping an event is 49 points. As it has been in the past, ARCA will award teams points for competing in each 5-race segment within its 20-race season. In 2020, those segments are scheduled to end at Charlotte, Lucas Oil Raceway, Watkins Glen International, and the season finale at Kansas Speedway. Any driver or owner attempting to compete in each of the 5 races per segment will earn a 50-point bonus, with any driver or owner entering and competing in all 20 races earning the maximum 200 bonus points. The same system will apply in the ARCA Menard Series East and West as well. ARCA President Ron Drager said, quote, "Entering our 3rd year as NASCAR property and now as the sanctioned body for the ARCA Menard Series East and West, we felt it was time to align our point system to fall more in line with the other national series. The 1 point per position points format has led to some great championship battles since it was implemented, and we are looking forward to seeing how it plays out in the ARCA Menard Series in 2020, unquote. The battle for the 2020 ARCA Menard Series Championship kicks off with the Lucas Oil 200 driven by General Tire at Daytona International Speedway on February 8th. The race will be televised live on FS1 starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The ARCA Menard Series East opens its season on Monday, February 10th at New Smyrna Speedway, and the ARCA Menard Series West opens with the Star Nursery 150 at the Bull Ring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Thursday, February 20th. Both of those races will be streamed live on Track Pass on NBC Sports Gold and will be televised on a tape-delayed basis on NBCSN. So, in short, ARCA will be using the same points that NASCAR does. You get 43 points for winning a race plus a 3-point bonus. Didn't it say 42? No. No, yeah. 43 points to win plus a 3-point bonus, and then you'll have 42 for second, 41 for third, 40 for fourth, and 1 point on back throughout the rest of the field. The difference is that they're actually doing bonus points like they used to do. That ARCA still has done, that NASCAR used to do. You get a bonus point for qualifying on the pole, 1 bonus point for leading a lap, and 1 bonus point for leading the most laps, and then the bonuses for competing in each of those 5 race segments. So there are substantial benefits to racing the entirety of the ARCA Menards series. Obviously, not everybody will, but those that do will have a major bonus in the points, and will absolutely help them going forward. So I am very excited to see. I've said this before already on the show, but I'm excited to see what ARCA is going to look like this year. I will be at both the ARCA Menards Series season opener and the ARCA Menards Series East openers. Those will be part of my Florida race chasing adventures. So I'm looking forward to that. I will not be out west for the West Series opener. That is the day the day after I fly back to New York for my trip. But I'll be at the other two, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be able to catch my very first ARCA Menards Series race, and I've already seen a handful of ARCA East races. They'll just be under the ARCA banner for the first time for these. Transitioning over to the dirt racing world, World Racing Group announced this past week that they are taking control of Volusia Speedway Park. This article is coming from news-journalonline.com and says Volusia Speedway Park will be managed on a weekly basis by owner World Racing Group after local promoter Tom Whipple decided not to renew his lease for 2020. Whipple, who has run the track since June 2018, said the demands of the job were just too great. WRG has named James Sawyer as the track manager. Sawyer lives in Bunnell. In a Facebook post, Whipple explained the move, saying, quote, "This is a good thing for the Speedway to be run by the company that owns the property. It has been an incredible challenge to keep the track operating during the 10 months that it was operated by a leaseholder. Duplicate efforts with equipment and staff and the transition every year have been unproductive and stressful for both parties. I will continue to be a part of..." Okay, this must be from Sawyer. Continuing on. I will continue to be a part of Volusia Speedway as a racer, a sponsor, and as a resource for James and his staff, unquote. Whipple was not available for direct comment. Contacted at its home office in North Carolina, WRG confirmed it plans to run the track year-round. World Racing Group CEO Brian Carter said, quote, "Our plan for 2020 will allow us to invest in the facility year-round rather than only the months leading up to the Dirt Car Nationals. We're looking ahead not only to the Dirt Car Nationals in February, but an exciting year of racing at Volusia with great leadership from within our company managed by a resident of Bunnell who has called Volusia Speedway Park his home track for a long time," unquote. A little bit of history about the track. Over the last few years, VSP was shuttered in October 2016 after Wendy Underwood left the facility as local promoter. In December of that year, John Allen opened the half-mile dirt oval for a few races, then nabbed the lease in 2017. Whipple joined Allen on the lease in 2018 and became the point man for promoting local races. In years past, WRG has used the track only during speed weeks, then handed it back over to the local promoter. Volusia Speedway Park has been in existence for more than 50 years. The facility was sold by Dick Murphy to Dirt Motorsports in 2005 for a reported $2.5 million. Dirt was later bought by the World Racing Group, which runs the top traveling dirt racing series, World of Outlaws. The track opened as a quarter-mile dirt oval in 1968. It expanded to a 0.4-mile oval in 1969. Then it went to full half-mile in 1972. And then goes on for some other statistics. So I would take this as a very good thing. I think last year they kind of only ran on a specials-only type schedule. So hopefully this means that they will be able to race more often than what they have in the past. And the quality will be even better than what it has been in previous years. I guess I probably should have shut my window before I started the show, so that way when the snowplow drives on by, you don't have to hear it as badly as you just did. I apologize for that. But anyway, World Racing Group taking over Volusia Speedway Park should be a great move, and Volusia will also be part of my race chasing adventures down in Florida. There was some more racing going on in Australia this past weekend. There was a major sprint car event. I believe that this is just a single event that happened at the Premier Speedway. The Southwest Conveyancing Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic Championship. That was decided, and it was won by James McFadden. James McFadden, you may know as the driver that has been filling in for Casey Kane at Casey Kane Racing, and will continue to race at Casey Kane Racing this year. So he picked up the 2020 Southwest Conveyancing Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic Championship. He was racing for Monty Motorsport as a part of that win. The top 10 finishers in that event were James McFadden, obviously, as the winner, Jamie Veal in second, Kerry Madsen third, Corey Elias in fourth, Marcus Dumsney in fifth, Tim Schaefer 6th, Buddy Kofoid 7th, Luke Dillon in 8th, Brooke Tatnell in 9th, and Steve Lyons rounded out the top 10. They had 24 cars in that feature event. Handful of American drivers heading back on over to Australia to compete in that. I don't know if this is the same exact race that Kyle Larson was racing in. I feel like it probably, it was. Looking at the track location. Kyle Larson, part of the American group that went back. He did not make the show. He struggled and had another flip. It was a pretty mild flip, but still had a flip and did not make the show. So his Chili Bowl success basically ended at the Chili Bowl. And as I scroll to the top of this page, this event was a 3-day event over this past weekend, January 24th through the 26th, that just being the premier event and the championship event for it that James McFadden picked up for himself. This one was just brought to our attention just prior to jumping on for this show. Speedsport.com reporting earlier today that Shane Stewart is joining Jason Sides for the Dirt Car Nationals. Straight from the article, Wing Sprint Car veteran Shane Stewart is joining Sides Motorsports next week for the Dirt Car Nationals presented by Bozard. Stewart and team owner Jason Sides will both compete during all 3 nights of World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series competition at Volusia Speedway Park in Barberville, Florida. Sides said, quote, "We're excited to have Shane with the team and hope we can have both cars running up front throughout the weekend. Shane has proven himself as a winner, and we're confident he can be competitive from the start," unquote. Stewart captured his first career win at the half-mile track during the Dirt Car Nationals opener last year. He enters the trio of Outlaws races with 34 career victories with the series. The 2005 World of Outlaws Rookie of the Year, Stewart placed a career-best second in the Outlaws Championship standings in 2015. Sides has also been victorious at Volusia Speedway Park, where he scored a triumph in 2011. He has earned at least one top 10 during the Dirt Car Nationals in 12 of the last 13 years. He said, quote, "Volusia is a big, wide, and fast track. It's key to qualify well so that you put yourself in a good position for the heat race, which can then line you up for success during the rest of the night. I'm confident that both Shane and I can be fast out of the box," unquote. The Dirt Car Nationals represents the only current races this season, with Stewart behind the wheel of a Sides Motorsports entry. Tim Keating is slated to return to part-time action with the team for the 3rd straight year once the World of Outlaws hit the West Coast in March. So Shane Stewart landing himself a ride for the Dirt Car Nationals. He will do so with Jason Sides and Sides Motorsports. It will be very interesting to see how successful he can make that ride work for him and where else his 2020 ventures will take him. Transitioning away from the dirt world, some more in general racing news in a bunch of different forms of racing that we heard over this past week. This one having a direct impact on IMSA, as it was announced at Daytona. The ACO and IMSA forge future of endurance racing. They made some pretty big changes this past weekend at the World Center of Racing. This coming straight from IMSA.com. The Automobile Club de l'Aoust, that's what the ACO stands for. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. And North America's sanctioning body for endurance racing, the International Motorsports Association, IMSA, have today announced the agreement has been, well, it says today, I think it was like Friday, announced that agreement has been reached for a common future with convergence of the top categories of endurance racing. On the occasion of the 2020 Rolex 24 at Daytona, the two sanctioning bodies unveiled the guiding principle for this platform, the introduction as the top category of competition of LMDH, which will be eligible for both the FIA World Endurance Championship and the WEC, and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. This joint platform responds to the wishes of numerous manufacturers. The chance for automotive manufacturers to compete with the same car at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, at Super Sebring, or at Spa-Francorchamps, at the Motul Petit Le Mans, or even Silverstone will soon become a reality. The ACO and IMSA have together established the basis for joint regulations to govern the new LMDH category. The objective is that from September 2021 in the FIA WEC and from January 2022 in the WeatherTech Championship, manufacturers will be able to enter the top category and compete in the two leading championships in endurance racing with this new model of car, LMDH. The two sanctioning bodies were inspired by elements from each of their respective regulations, namely from the ACO's Le Mans Hypercar and those in preparation by IMSA for the DPI 2.0. The result of this convergence, the LMDH car will be based on new chassis common to both ACO and IMSA, using elements of the Le Mans Hypercar and LMP2 chassis, and built by the four current LMP2 manufacturers, Dallara, Ligier, Multimatic, and Oreca. This chassis will also be used for the new generation LMP2. The car will use a common hybrid curve system on the rear axle, and its silhouette and design will be modifiable, developed according to the brand or style of the manufacturer, which will provide the engine power for the car. More technical details for the car will be revealed in March at Super Sebring in a presentation from the ACO and IMSA technical departments. In the future, the top category of endurance racing will include both LMDH and Le Mans Hypercar. A balance of performance system will ensure fair competition. And then it just goes on and lists a bunch of other quotes from other people involved in this. So this is pretty big news. The ACO and IMSA merging together, they're creating a new class in prototype racing that is going to allow both. That is going to allow competitors to compete both in FIA WEC races and in IMSA races. So as it listed out, you can have a guy running in both the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Rolex 24. Racing other races over at like Sebring and Spa, and still being able to race here in the United States in Sebring. Did I say Sebring twice? Silverstone in Spa, and then also bring them in Sebring. So I don't see how you can take any ill will on this at all. It's going to allow more people to participate in these races and should hopefully boost up the field count. We only saw a total of 38 cars compete in the Rolex 24 this past weekend. There were a total of 13 prototypes. There were 8 in DPI, 5 in LMP2. So hopefully down the road, this is going to allow those numbers to boost up and make the Rolex 24 and all of these other sports car races a much more enjoyable event for many other people involved with both forms of sports car racing. Racer.com reported this past week that Fernando Alonso and McLaren, their partnership has come to an end directly from their article says Fernando Alonso's partnership with McLaren is officially over after an ambassadorial deal expired at the end of 2019 and was not renewed. The Spaniard opted to step away from Formula One at the end of 2018, taking an ambassadorial role with McLaren while also competing for the team at last year's Indianapolis 500. However, after failing to qualify for that race, it appeared less likely that the partnership would be extended, and Alonso made increasingly sporadic appearances at races while the F1 team enjoyed a strong season. A team spokesman told Reuters, quote, Fernando was a world-class competitor and we wish him well for the future. While our relationship has come to a natural conclusion, he will always remain part of the McLaren family, unquote. McLaren finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship last season with new driver pairing Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, both of whom have longer-term contracts that underline their status as the team's future. Alonso, who raced in this year's Dakar Rally for Toyota, is expected to attempt the Indy 500 again as he continues his quest to win the Triple Crown. While his seat is not yet confirmed, the Spaniard is in talks to drive for Andretti Autosport in May after leading a number of laps for the team on his debut at Indianapolis in 2017. McLaren is returning to IndyCar in partnership with Schmidt-Peterson this year, with the Arrow McLaren SP team also opting for youth in its lineup in the form of Pato O'Ward and Oliver Askew. This was something that we had sort of talked about a few weeks ago, and now we're getting some more information about it. Alonso and McLaren, they are done with each other. Makes Alonso's plans a little bit easier moving forward. So we will patiently and curiously wait to see what comes of this for his racing plans in 2020. As it mentions, very much expect him to be racing with Andretti Autosport for the 2020 Indy 500. Of course, that is not yet officially set in stone, but that is what it is looking like for right now. So, potentially good news for Fernando. I guess we'll see how things work out moving on down the line. Atlantic City Indoor Race is coming up this upcoming weekend. The second event for the Indoor Auto Racing Championship, and we have a driver coming out of retirement to compete in that event this weekend. This is coming from Speed51.com and says, just months after formally announcing his retirement from racing, Ransomville, New York asphalt modified racer Chuck Hosfeld has become the latest TQ midget entrant in the Napa Know-How Indoor Auto Racing Series events inside Atlantic City, New Jersey's famed Boardwalk Hall. Hosfeld said, quote, when I made the announcement to retire, I could not believe the attention I got. It's been very flattering, and it is something that I will never forget. Unquote. He won't have to. When the Indoor Auto Racing VP Series storms into Atlantic City's Boardwalk Hall, Hosfeld will buckle up behind the wheel of Joe Bernard's number 98 Team Nye built TQ Midget. It will be the first ever Indoor Auto Racing Series start for Hosfeld, whose racing legacy includes 4 Race of Champions Modified Touring Series titles achieved 21 years apart, those coming in 1997, 2011, 2014, and 2018. His last ROC Series win came this past summer in July at Lancaster National Speedway in New York. Hosfeld finished second once and third twice in the points on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Touring Series on the strength of 7 career wins. He also has made 10 career NASCAR Gander Outdoors truck starts between 2000 and 2001, driving for Jack Roush with 1 top 10 finish. Annie Jankowiak, Ryan Flores, and Eric Rudolph, the last 3 winners of the headline Gamblers Classic TQ Midget races in the building, come to Atlantic City, are pre-race favorites. Andy J. of Buffalo, New York, still savors his 2019 Gamblers Classic win as the highlight of his driving career, and he wants nothing more than to do it again. After 2 rounds of Indoor Auto Racing Series action fueled by VP Racing Fuels, Matt Janish is the current leader in the championship standings. Janish of Nazareth, Pennsylvania, had Allentown finishes of 3rd and 7th. Janish leads upstate New York dirt modified racer Ryan Bartlett in the TQ points, heading into Atlantic City by 10 points. Bartlett made his first start behind the wheel of a new-to-him Lafler-built TQ Midget. And then it just continues on with some more statistics going into the Atlantic City indoor race this weekend. So pretty cool news if you're a Chuck Hosfeld fan or a fan of Western New York pavement racing. His retirement is very short-lived. He comes out to compete in the Atlantic City indoor race this upcoming weekend in Atlantic City, Jersey, inside of Boardwalk Hall. They call it the Gamblers Classic. Probably the most prestigious of the indoor races to win. And Chuck Hosfeld not only going to go for that, but it will be his first ever indoor race, so it should be fun to see how he does in a new-to-him form of racing. Kyle Elwood, a New England modified driver. He has announced his plans for the 2020 racing season. He's going to be teaming with Paul French for an SK Light season at Stafford Motor Speedway. This is coming from RacedayCT.com. With the 2020 NASCAR weekly racing season less than 100 days away, another new combination has been announced in Stafford Speedway's SK Light ranks. Riverhead, New York native Kyle Elwood will team with longtime SK Light car owner and driver Paul French to drive the number 2 Backage Construction Chevrolet. Elwood will return to full-time weekly racing after making 25 NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour starts from 2014 to 2019. Elwood said, quote, "I'm excited to get started with Paul French. I met him last year when we bought a car from him. He helped me run the car in the last race at Thompson, and we finished 5th after starting last. After that race, Paul mentioned that maybe we could do something next season, and he ended up asking me if I wanted to drive his car at Stafford. I really have to give a big thank you to Paul for giving me this chance. This is a really great opportunity for me, and we're looking for any marketing partners who would like to jump on board a fast race car," unquote. Out of Elwood's 25 career NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour starts, 8 of those races came at Stafford. Although Elwood's best finish in those 8 starts was a 14th in the Stafford 125 in May of 2015, the experience that he gained in those races will be invaluable as he prepares to step down to a lower horsepower car at the Connecticut half-mile facility. He went on to say, quote, "Having seen the track before is definitely going to help. I know where to run, and I have laps around Stafford. It's just going to be a matter of adjusting to a lower speed car and trying to keep the momentum up. This is a great opportunity that will help me take a step back from working on my own tour car and focus more on setting the car up. Paul has really fast cars, and he does his homework, so I'm looking forward to doing some racing on a weekly basis. This will get me off Long Island and racing at one of the most prestigious tracks in America," unquote. And just continues on with a bunch of other information there. So some good news for Kyle Elwood. He's got himself a ride for the 2020 season, pairing up with Paul French to take on the Stafford Motor Speedway's SK Light Modified Division on a weekly basis. So an experienced and accomplished racer in himself, looking for good things in 2020, and hopefully he will be able to accomplish those things. Final thing that I got for you guys before we send it on over to you for our viewer segment. Really cool thing that was announced by Madison International Speedway this past week. They're going to be forming a new high school racing association to help high school students get involved in racing. This is coming exactly from the Madison International Speedway Madison International Speedway website. That is misracing.com. And it says, 2 Wisconsin racing facilities announced today the formation of a new high school racing association. This new association is a combined effort between the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway and the Madison International Speedway. The Speedway's goal is to provide youth an economic entry into stock car racing. The HSRA will feature high school age drivers in competition throughout the summer months. Other racing facilities are expected to join the association as the 2020 season progresses along. The HSRA co-founder and 2000 Auto Racing Promoter of the Year, Chuck Derry, said, quote, "This is something that we have been working on for quite some time. We have seen the potential in this style of racing through our street stock and 6-shooter classes, not only at our tracks, but tracks throughout the country. This division gives teenagers a fun and inexpensive way to become involved in auto racing. The number of the youths involved in esports such as iRacing is tremendous. This is a way to get them further involved in the sport they love," unquote. He also went on to add that the goal is to add tracks from the North America into the program and continue to grow the HSRA's reach each season. The HSRA will feature American production 6-cylinder sedans with various safety enhancements. The driver's high school colors and mascot must be incorporated into the paint scheme of the car's roof at a minimum. Students entering their freshman year of high school, current high school students, as well as those just graduating from high school with a minimum age of 14 and maximum age of 19 will be eligible to compete. Anyone under the age of 18 wishing to enter the pit garage area will need to have a completed minor's release form on file at each track they wish to attend. A complete set of rules and regulations can be found on the official HSRA website at highschoolracing.org. They had a gentleman on here or on NASCAR radio. Greg McCarnes, it was Greg McCarnes was on NASCAR radio talking about this today, and it sounds super awesome. Pretty cheap, inexpensive way for youngsters to get involved in the sport. I very much wish that something like this was going on when I was in high school. I would have taken full advantage of it. I ended up started racing at 17, but I would totally do something like this if I was in high school and it was going on. This is a fantastic way to get teenagers into the sport of racing. Just another way to help grow the sport, get more people involved in it, and even get people involved in the driving aspect of the sport, getting them out on the racetrack, turning laps, and competing amongst other drivers their age, and potentially setting up successful racing careers or long-time race fans at the absolute least with something like this. So it would be fun to follow this new project, see how it goes, and see how it continues to expand. McCarnes today had said that I think they're looking at like 8 tracks right now that are interested. Nothing more that has been announced other than La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway and Madison International Speedway, but it does sound like that could change very, very soon, and maybe even expand before the racing season starts out there in Wisconsin. So super, super awesome initiative. This is the kind of stuff that we need to happen, and I really do hope that this continues to grow, not just in that area, but maybe even nationwide, and can really become the next big thing for youngsters trying to get involved in racing. So that, my friends, is all that I've got for you. If there is anything that you have to provide for me, any questions that you have, telling me what you did this past weekend, any thoughts you have on any of the racing that went down, anything like that, feel free to take advantage of it now. Your time is now to shine. We talked a lot about the racing that happened this past weekend, and it's just, I continue to say this, it's so good to get back to a time where there's regular racing. I was talking to my friend that I'm going to be staying with while I'm down in Florida, and said to him that this time of the year is always a time where I just get really excited. I spend half of the month of February down in Florida, so I get to get out of here, out of New York, out of the cold, out of the winter, out of the snow, enjoy the nice weather, and enjoy the racing. I am a firm believer that racing is a year-round sport. Obviously, as we're continuously talking about racing, it's just hard up here in the Northeast to find things consistently happening that aren't little snow enduros or smash and bash 'em type races, or the indoor stuff. It's frequent and far between up here, but down south and in better areas, it's more common. So I'm excited to get out of here, go down and enjoy the start of the NASCAR season. I'm going to be hitting up some local short tracks and some other dirt tracks while I'm down there. So it's going to be great. And then when I come back, I get through a week and a half, 2 weeks at the most of February, and then we're into March. And once we get to March up here in the Northeast, things start to pick up. We don't really see a lot of racing here in New York until kind of mid to late April, but in the surrounding states, racing picks up. A lot of Pennsylvania tracks start their seasons up in March, so I do a lot of traveling to Pennsylvania during the early spring months. The Enduro that I'm planning on running at Adirondack International Speedway on March changed their date again. It was originally supposed to be run on March 14th. They changed it to the 7th, and now they just changed it all the way back to March 21st. So I'll at least have a little over a month to get my car ready by the time I come back from Florida, so that's beneficial to me. But kind of stinks that I have to wait that extra time too, because I'm ready to go racing. So it's a good time of the year. It's a very, very good time of the year. I am a person that could totally go to the racetrack all the time, all year round, and never take a break. But having these breaks is nice in a way, because it allows me to realize how much this sport means to me and how much my passion really does flow for it. as much as I love racing, yeah, it does kind of get a little grinding, a little taxing at times to not have some time to just relax and not have to worry about traveling and stuff. Of course, I do it all on my own. It's all on my fun, spare, free time, so it's not at all required. I could always just not do it. But what's the fun in that? So it's a good time. It's a good time to be a race fan, and I can't wait to get to Florida and enjoy the racing that I will be enjoying. Right now on my schedule, some things are going to change around because I don't know necessarily what certain events are going to be running at certain times, so maybe I won't be able to do as much as I'm hoping to. But I start things off. The first 2 days I'm down in Florida with the Winter Nationals at East Bay Raceway Park. I've never been to East Bay before, so that'll be a new track to me. And then the next 2 nights I will be at another new to me racetrack, Alltech Raceway, for the Sunshine Swing. That is the Short Track Super Series coming down. They're a racing series around here for big block modifieds. They're going to be going down to Florida and racing at Alltech Raceway for the very first time. As I said earlier, I'm going to be hitting up the ARCA Menards Series season opener at Daytona. I'm going to do the Busch Clash at Daytona for the first time. As of right now, I've got 2 race dates scheduled at Volusia Speedway Park for the Dirt Kart Nationals. I have 3 races planned for the Legend Car Winter Nationals at Citrus County Speedway. I did 2 of those last year. I'm not entirely sure when they're running during their time period, but if it's during the day like it was last year, I'm going to try to hit 3 of them up. Going to do the ARCA Menards Series East. I need to change the name of that because I marked it down as the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. It is not that anymore. ARCA Menards Series East opener at New Smyrna Speedway. I'm going to do the duels at Daytona for the first time, and then the NASCAR opening weekend, I'm going to do all 3 races, the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I'm going to try to make, I think I'm going to set in stone, I'm going to do it. Hopefully that everything works out. I'm going to do an awesome doubleheader on Saturday for the Xfinity race. After that, I'm going to drive as fast as I can to get down to Tampa for the Monster Energy Supercross race at Raymond James Stadium. So that'll be really cool. I'll add 3 new racetracks to my list: East Bay Raceway Park, Alltech Raceway, and the track that they form inside Raymond James Stadium. Yes, I do count that stuff. They may be temporary racetracks, but that is a racetrack inside of a facility that I've never been to or seen before, so I count it. So I will come out of Florida with 92 racetracks I've gone to, and I'm trying to hit 100 this year. So I'll only have 8 more to do, and a long year to make that happen. So I'm not at all worried about that. It should be pretty easy to accomplish. Once the New York tracks start releasing their schedules more, I want to try and knock off more tracks. I think I've got about like 6 or 7 racetracks in New York that I haven't been to. The tracks that I count, anything that race like a legitimate race car, I don't count go-kart tracks unless they race a legitimate race car with it. Go-karts are not race cars in my mind. You might race a go-kart, but it's not a race car. So I don't count it. Not my cup of tea, but there's only a few more tracks in New York that I need to go to. So I want to get closer to accomplishing that this year. The toughest one is going to be Riverhead Raceway down on Long Island. That's just a very long drive for me from where I live. But it has to happen sometime. So why not try to make it happen this year? Get it out of the way as quickly as possible, and then make the other ones easier to accomplish. So it's a good time. It's a good time. I know I've said that quite a bit over the last few shows, but I'm excited. I'm excited to get back to racing. I'm excited to get back to the racetrack. I'm excited to experience the atmosphere again. I'm excited for everything. I'm excited for it all, and hopefully you guys are too. So, yeah, we're kind of doing it right now a little bit here, Caleb. Hello, good to see you. Nobody usually watches this stuff live too much anymore, so it makes the viewer segment a little easier to go through, but oh well. it happens. So, but yeah, I think that's where we're gonna close it out. So, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Didn't really see a ton of people this week, at least on the live show. But for those that did show up, I do appreciate it. If you're not already connected to our social media links, you can now do so at the bottom of the chat. I actually did those flip-flop for once. We put everything up on YouTube, all these shows, so if you either miss part of a show while you're watching live, or if you miss the entirety of a show, or if you just want to relive a show, you can do so on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to come and check a show out on Twitch. We do these every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, so make sure to come check it out. The Twitch link is down in the description. And then the Facebook group. The Facebook group is where we talk about all of our racing stuff. A lot of what we talk about on Facebook does make it onto the show. It's a way for you to get involved in the show. If there's something that you think is worthy of coming on, posted it in the group, and chances are I'm going to talk about it. And then just in general racing discussion with other racing fans and stuff like that. So make sure to put yourself in there too. Another reminder, I said at the beginning of the show, wanted to get out of the way at the beginning of the show in case people didn't make it all the way to this part. I will not be doing a show next Monday night. I'm flying to Florida next Monday night. I am going to bring some of my stream stuff for OBS down to Florida with me. So if I'm able to find some time to do a live show or to while I'm down in Florida, I will do my best to make that happen. I know that one Monday in between that I'm down there, the entirety of it, one of the 2 Mondays, I will be at New Smyrna Speedway, so that'll either be maybe a mid-afternoon show or something, but we'll figure it out, and of course I'll post it in the group and let you guys know once I make a decision. So we'll wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Monday night. I hope you have a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. Lots of racing to come. The Atlantic City indoor race is going on this weekend. So if you're in the Atlantic City, New Jersey area, you've got that going on. Monster Energy Supercross in Oakland, race number 5 of the year. And I'm sure there's other stuff I just can't quite think about right now. This is going to be the last sort of kind of dull weekend, if it is going to be dull. Because you got ARCA and NASCAR stuff starting up next weekend. Next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend. It's all back. It's awesome. So you might have to search for some stuff going on this weekend, but there's at least that going on. I know I mentioned a totally regional racing series as a lot going on. Maybe I shouldn't have said a lot, but I did anyway. Either way, find your racing, get to a track if you can, watch a broadcast, do something racing related. It's out there. Go enjoy it. Come back and report it to us, and we'll talk about it. Thank you guys again. Thank you for watching the live show. Thank you for watching the YouTube. Enter the Facebook group. Do all that cool stuff. Spread the word. Tell people about the show. Let's get this continue to build up. And we'll see you guys not next Monday, but hopefully in 2 weeks again on our live show. That would be Monday, February 10th. Monday, February 10th. Either that'll probably be a mid-afternoon show if I end up doing it. So mark it down now. If anything changes, it'll be in the Facebook group. So get in the Facebook group to know for sure what's going to happen with the show in 2 weeks. No show next week. Next week is an off week. We'll be back in 2 weeks, Monday, February 3rd, hopefully, for episode number 18. Thank you guys. Spread the love, and we'll see you then.